Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Feed and Focused for Remote Work and Digital Nomads podcast. My name is Shurina. I'm a certified nutritionist, health, nutrition, brain performance, flow performance coach, just someone with a lot of passion and obsession for helping you guys to learn about tools, research-based tools, neuroscience-based tools, integrative health, nutrition, productivity, flow performance, all of these tools based on sometimes very recent, sometimes not so recent research that you can use in your life to sometimes instantly and sometimes over the long term feel, do, and look your absolute best. Today, guys, we're gonna have a shorter episode, and it is inspired by the conversation I had yesterday with a fellow digital nomad, but not a fellow architect because I'm not an architect. And her name, the person on the other side of my podcast, the person who I interviewed, her name is Adi, and you're gonna hear her podcast very soon. And she is an architect, but a special kind of architect. She combines the science of health with the architecture. The phrase that she used often on the podcast yesterday was, any space is an invitation. And what she means by that is that whenever we design a space, not maybe you and me, but whenever spaces are designed, they promote, they nudge, they push us a little bit into a certain direction of actions. Just if you think about the simplest example, supermarket. When you get into any supermarket, whatever you see most prominently on your eye level at a checkout, that's what you're going to buy. And they did a lot of studies on how just placing products differently will increase the sales of certain products, right? So don't think that a supermarket designed in a way to help you. No, they designed to help sales. And sometimes some supermarkets do emphasize health. Sometimes you have these days government guidelines to help people make healthier choices, but sometimes not. And you get at any store and you'll end up getting a bunch of stuff that you didn't want to buy and a bunch of stuff that is not really aligned with your health goals. And it is not by coincidence, guys. From your perspective, it can be, but not from the perspective of people who design supermarkets. And Adi, she is a special kind of architect. So she helps people to design spaces that promote well-being, right? Different actions and just the feeling that you are well. And today I just wanted to share with you a couple of tools how you can design or choose, if you're a digital nomad, person who travels a lot or just changes location for one reason or the other often. I want to help you to use a couple of elements to promote certain states of mind to feel better, to work better, to make better choices, and that will also influence the way you look, of course. So what are those couple of things that I learned from Adi? I learned it actually even before some of that. And then Adi just confirmed that yeah, I studied it. This is how it works. And that this is what we use when we design spaces with our firm. That is the New Movement. So when I asked Adi her advice on healthy living while living a digital nomad lifestyle, she said, I'm going to say one thing that is kind of ordinary and one is kind of unusual. And she started with the unusual. Don't stay in ugly places. That was her advice. And what she meant by that is don't stay in places that make you feel not good. And by that she meant when you get into a place, when you rent a place, when you get into any space, how does it make you feel? Do you want to stay? Do you start feeling more positive, uplifted, just more well? Or you want to kind of get out of there? It makes you feel constricted and more anxious and more stressed and under the pressure. Spaces can do that. Certain design of spaces, of ceilings, of colors, of light. And She said, don't stay in ugly places. And I totally agree with her, especially if you're going to work in that space, especially if you're going to spend a lot of time in that space, guys, that matters how the place is going to make you feel. That's going to influence your mental state. That's going to influence the work you produce, the decisions you make, the opinions that your mind will gravitate towards. And the implications of that, guys, are huge, especially if you compile them over the long term. I'm going to start with personal example. I never stay in a place, because I also work a lot at home, so I never stay in a place that is not brightly lit, that has dark colors, not enough light, and I feel like this urge to get outside to just get enough light. It's like you don't have enough air, and I'm very sensitive to those things. That why I notice, but a lot of people don't notice. They just think, oh, I'm kind of sleepy, not productive in my space. Well, look at your space. Does it have enough natural light? Do you have enough big windows? I don't have windows. I have glass doors, so I have a lot of light. Plus my space right now, where I've been staying for quite a long time in Mexico, it's all white. So there is a lot of white, and the windows, their doors, there is a lot of natural light. I see sunrise from my place, and the sun during the day is shining not directly into my windows, but I have a lot of natural light. And whenever I would stay in a place that is dark, there is not enough light, I would always feel like a little bit more anxious, not productive, sleepy, like my thoughts would be more negative. And I knew that that is not a good place for me to stay if I want to produce good quality work, if I want to move forward, if I want to do something amazing, right? It influences your well-being. It influences things even like your blood sugar regulation and your heart rate and your blood pressure. There are not so many studies yet on that specific aspect of different spaces and their influence on us, but there are even books for interior design that focus specifically on psychological side of colors, for example, and how you shouldn't be designing your space with a lot of bright red, because that color makes people feel anxious and threatened. Like, unless, I don't know, it's a bedroom and you always want to be on there, but with some action. Red color by itself, just for accent, here and there, it's good, but as a major color, not that great, right? So people noticed that long time ago. Or for example, mental health institutions, people noticed also that certain colors make people feel more anxious and crazier, and certain colors calm people down. That's science. Still not, again, a lot of research, but there's going to be more and more. And in architecture, they know that the more open, the brighter the brightly lit space is, the more inviting and the more welcoming, and the happier the space is for people. People feel good in those spaces, right? So if you have a choice to choose an apartment, please do your best to optimize not for the most, expensive interior design features, but for the most light, for the most welcoming. Just get into space and give yourself a few moments to breathe and to feel, how do you like the space? If you work here, does it feel like it's going to give you energy? And again, a shortcut, brightly lit spaces with a lot of space where you don't feel like you're in a dungeon, in a cage, usually with calming colors, like whiter or just warmer, and maybe not as in your face, like super bright and super poppy. Those calmer spaces will give you more energy, and you will feel better, and you will feel more productive. So pay attention to that. A couple of well-researched things from Adi and other research that I came across. Number one, the type of room, specifically the type of ceiling where you do your work, changes the way you think. So we'll already talk actually briefly on this podcast about that. I even wrote about it in my book. So if you want to do more analytical work, kind of put yourself in a box. You want to have what most of our rooms have. You want to have this square design and the stuff that makes you feel more constrained, right? Sometimes you would have spaces that would be with the square like ceiling and walls, but it would be designed in a way that it makes it feel round, like you have more space and you have cathedral-like features, like it's rounded everywhere, right? And why I'm talking about round angles and cathedral-like effect, ideally you would have higher ceilings like you would have in cathedrals or libraries, or maybe open ceilings somewhere outside, right? Or at least partially outside with a big horizon in front of you. Those things make you feel creative, make you think creatively, make you think wider and bigger and have a wider perspective, and make you dream and think more abstractively compared again to those more constrained spaces that make you think more down to earth in an analytical way. So these are a couple of examples that do work. Number one, again, the amount of light you get, that will impact your productivity directly right away. There is no doubt about it. Your sleepiness or wakefulness, it is affected by the amount of light in your environment. So if you feel sleepy, instead of coffee, try to increase lights in your apartment. Maybe sit by the window, maybe sit on a balcony like I do sometimes. Maybe get one of those selfie lights for the purpose of increasing your alertness in the first part of the day, because they're actually quite bright, and if you set it by the place where you work, it will give you a boost of this alertness. And then second thing is, if your place feels more constrained, it's all square, it feels more like a box, it's going to make you feel more analytical, and sometimes we all need it. Maybe like when you edit your book, when you create your book, when you write it, when you want to be more creative, get into a space with round ceiling, with open spaces, with open air, with a lot of perspective used, right? Something more natural. When you need to edit it and be more analytical, or maybe create a more analytical plan for your business, get into a box, literally in a room that feels more like a box, that feel more constrained. Maybe face a wall, or sit in some sort of corner, still well lit, so you don't feel like you're in a dungeon and there is no light and you feel sleepy. But the idea is more box-like spaces, more constrained spaces, more rectangular, like squares, rectangular spaces. They will always make you feel more mathematical, analytical, more precise, down to earth, whereas again, more spaces with open spaces, with big ceilings, with high ceilings, with horizon that you can see, a lot of nature. These spaces will make you feel more creative, especially, of course, if they're brightly lit. So these are a couple of things that you can implement today right away to increase your productivity. Number one, by changing the amount of light in your environment. And number two, changing the way you think when you need it. So if you need to be more creative, try to find a space with these specifications. A lot of light, a lot of round shapes, high ceiling, more like cathedral effect. Maybe you can see the horizon or just perspective outside of your space where you sit. Maybe there is more nature. Maybe you can even see the beach, maybe ocean front, right? So all of these spaces will help you to be more creative. And when you need to get analytical, get into that square space, into the box, and you're gonna get it. So these are a couple of takeaways, a couple of tools, a couple of previews from the podcast that's upcoming. You're gonna learn so much, guys. That is one of the most fascinating, interesting conversations that I've had with a person who is an architect and a digital nomad. I don't meet a lot of those people just because it's kind of complicated with the regulations, etc. But Adi found the way to do that, and she's gonna share all of that with you. So today, use your space as your productivity amplifier with the tools we discussed. You can even look them up on Google. They all are out there, not really that new and cutting edge. So use the tips. If you have any questions, please reach out. Maybe share your pictures of your space where you work and ask me how you can improve that for certain aspects of your creativity or your productivity. So reach out. Stay tuned for the upcoming podcast with Adi. And till next time, guys, just look at your space and try to feel it. How does it make you feel? What is the default mental state, and perhaps physical also, that this place produce in you? Try to be more aware of that, because environment changes how you think, what you feel, and decisions you make more than you think. And it's very important to be aware of that fact and try to be and exist and live and work in places that make you feel the way you want to feel, to deliver the life experience and work that you want to deliver and experience. And you'll hear from me soon. Stay tuned and have an amazing, productive, brightly lit, with open horizons kind of day.